Hey, what's up guys? BJ Dell back with the first weekly art challenge review video for 2020. That's right, it's a new year, so happy new year to everyone watching. Hope you guys had a happy holidays. If you guys are new to the channel and you don't know about these videos, basically every Wednesday I film a weekly art challenge review video reviewing artwork from viewers like you. Then at the end of the video I give you that week's prompt and you draw a design based on that week's challenge. Post it online, which I will tell you how to do that at the end of the video. And then the following Wednesday, I film one of these. So last week's challenge word or phrase was New Year's resolution. So let's see what you guys came up with. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the video today, all about your New Year's resolutions. First up is we have Carlos, and Carlos posted in the group, my New Year's resolution is to continue to grow my YouTube channel and maybe collab with BJ. So Carlos has a YouTube channel. I'm going to link it in the description below. You guys definitely need to check it out. Carlos does some fantastic animation stuff on there that just you have to see to believe. Just really good stuff. And the collab part, actually I talked with Carlos earlier today and we've got some stuff set up. So if you guys have watched the previous videos that I've done with the Let's Talk Art series where I've interviewed other artists, I've had Drew on so far and Roger. Gonna get Carlos on for an episode of that, so look forward to having him on. But let's get back to his piece. And like I said, wanting to continue to grow his YouTube channel, and I think this is one of those cases of really taking an idea and knocking it out of the park. With the actual prompt this week, New Year's resolution, I know that one's kind of hard. Like I said, it's not as easy as just drawing something like a dog or a cat or some of the other prompts that we usually do. So this one was a little bit more trying, and I love the way that he approached this and definitely brings home the idea, you know, having the watering can here going on top of the YouTube play button here with the kind of sprout coming out. It's just really well done. I talked about before too with Roger, if you guys watched that one, talking about kind of challenging yourself and stepping outside of your comfort zone. And that's kind of what I've been trying to do with some of these challenges. I know a lot of people's goals is to make a career in art or start getting, commissions and stuff like that, which we'll talk about here in a second. But a lot of time you will get a client request that's not something that you're used to drawing. So definitely take these challenges, and even if it's something not in your wheelhouse, give it a go, because if you are looking, down the road to starting to do commissions or client work, you're going to have a lot of that coming in, stuff that you might not have drawn before. So definitely get out of your comfort zone in 2020 and give it a go and take part in these challenges and post away. But back to Carlos's design. Love the overall just feel of the kind of self-portrait here. The stance is just fantastic. Love the hand coming out here. Just a lot of kind of energy in the pose that he chose here. Love the shadows here on the palm too. Those are really well done, and bringing it up into the arm there, and just really nice crisp line work throughout. So definitely check out Carlos's YouTube. Like I said, I'm going to put it in the description. Also, Coconut Justice on the social medias. Give Carlos your views and attention, and thanks so much for sharing that one, Carlos. Next up, we've got, I think, Stefan or Stefan. I'm sorry, don't know how to pronounce that one, but Stefan wrote, let me pull his up here. Said, it's my first effort in calligraphy with Procreate. Also, it's a mantra I like to take as a New Year resolution in 2020. So today I focus on what I want to attract into my life, and I think this one is just really, really great. I love the kind of chalkboard feel, deal with the textures here, and then of course the chalk kind of brush here that was used gives that really believable chalk look to the whole design. And I think this is one thing that's really, really cool, with digital art, is all the tools that you have at your disposal to come up with stuff like this that really looks traditional in a sense. So I really encourage you too in the new year to kind of play around with new brushes, play around with new techniques to kind of see what is capable with this awesome digital medium that we've got. So back to the design itself. I love hand lettering. I love calligraphy. It's something that I love to play around with, and I think Stefan did a great job on this. Just has a nice kind of flow to the lines. It's just kind of draws you in, and it's something that you want to look at, which, you know, is definitely the keys to a good design. One thing that I usually try to do if I'm doing like hand lettering is kind of setting up grids or, you know, lines to kind of set the mood and set the tone of where everything is supposed to go. With this here, we'll see if we look right here, something I probably would have done a little bit different. The gap here between the Y's, it comes down here, and the L. See, it's fairly small there, but it's a lot wider down here. Personally, I would have kept that the same. So to do that, I would have just trailed these lines out as a kind of underneath or bottom layer to kind of use as a guideline. And same thing here, just pulling this out, kind of making sure that the gap stayed the same throughout. I kind of like having the letters bigger towards the end. I think that is kind of cool. But a lot of these here, you'll see, if we follow these down and around with this center line right there, you'll see that this kind of starts to jump down further. If these maybe were brought up further up here to make them a little bit more centered with the kind of flow that it has, it's just that you've got a kind of slope here that it's taking, but then it kind of falls off, and you'll see these sit a lot lower than what these sit over here. So that's one thing I would recommend on this, but just an absolute fantastic job. Great first attempt on, you know, using Procreate for calligraphy, and can't wait to see more of what you do with it. So thanks so much for submitting that this week. Next up, we've got David, and David's just got this fantastic design. Man, I love this one so much. Says my New Year's resolution 2020, and hashtag New Year's resolution, hashtag life goals. And that's it. No further explanation needed. So David just wants to be in the pool, chilling with, you know, I think somebody called this out as being like, wondering if it's a Pop-Tart gold necklace. And he said, now it is. But drink in hand, got the chick in the background with the bikini on, and just a really great piece. Number one, I love the kind of color palette that was used on this. It kind of has this almost kind of like pop art surrealness to it, instead of going with, you know, just a regular plain old blue here and a plain old blue here for the sky. I think the color palette really makes this pop, and it gives it that kind of really cool vibe to it that you could see like on a poster or something like that. One thing too to kind of pay attention to here is just the variance and line weight throughout here is just great. You'll see starts out thick here, goes to this real thin line right here, and then back up to a thicker line here, down to a thin line there, and then around the pool itself too. Just these changes in line weight are really good. A lot of time what people will do is doing something like this, it's just really easy if you're even doing traditional, you know, put a ruler on there. Or with Procreate, you can actually go in and, you know, do lines and just drag and wait till it clicks, and then you've got a perfect line. So a lot of times people will, on this type of design, you know, for this pool edge, you know, just put a straight line there, and back here just put a straight line here and a straight line here, and it just looks really plain. And I think David did a great job of just using these, you know, different weighted lines here, making sure they're not perfectly straight. This one is here, but as you can see, it's only a small portion, so it doesn't really detract from everything. This one here has different line weights. You know, these lines here, not perfect. They go down and off, and I just think that makes for a more interesting design. Definitely has a more organic feel, and just love the way that you use that throughout the piece. It's not just in one perfect area. It's all over the piece that you used that varying line weight. So great job there. Also, too, just the kind of shadows as they go around. You'll see here, once again, I think a lot of people would have just put a straight shadow across here, a straight line, and then filled that in. So having this kind of flowing line here and these kind of messy shadows just really brings a lot of energy and a lot of fun to the piece. And I think that that's why this one works so well. So just a great job. I love the foot too. Sometimes I know a lot of people have problems with feet, and you killed the perspective on that, and just the overall shape is just fantastic. So I loved seeing this piece this week, David. So thanks so much for submitting that. Okay, and next up we've got Greg, and Greg posted this in the group along with the Description, my first post in here. Number one, Greg, welcome to the group. We love having new people in the group and love the first post submitted. It's always fun to see new people join and start sharing. My resolution challenge, more time making art. So I think this is kind of a recurring theme throughout a lot of people's design submissions this week is everybody wants to make time for art in the new year. They want to devote more time to the craft, get better at art, feel more comfortable with what they're doing, you know, turn it into a possible career, or just maybe a side hustle. And I think this one, once again, kind of like Carlos's and, you know, going back to the how do you bring a New Year's resolution to life, I think that Greg did a fantastic job kind of putting that whole idea into a design. Obviously, we can tell this is exactly what he wants for the new year, and I love how you brought the clock to life here. This kind of goes back to last week's challenge prompt, which was bringing an inanimate object to life, and I think you did a great job here. Of course, with the design, this is a traditional design, so kind of going back to that, if you guys are new to the videos, haven't joined the group yet, but you've watched enough videos to know, oh, he's always using an iPad, and I don't use an iPad, or I don't do digital art. That's not a problem. We want to see what you guys are doing. Welcome all kinds of artwork in the group, so it doesn't matter if it's traditional, if it's digital. If you guys are creating art, definitely show it off in the group. Take part in these challenges because we want to see what you're doing. So Greg obviously here used colored pencils, and I love just kind of the warm feeling that you get from this. It's a very kind of subtle change in between the texture here and the values to create some shadows and highlights, and I think that's really, really well done. And like I said, bringing the object to life is just fantastic. I love the choice here of making the 6 into the mouth. I think that is just awesome. And then of course you making the clock hands come out as the arms or the hands, you know, is really smart too. So fantastic job there. One thing I think, much like I talked about with David's, and I said people struggle with feet, I think a lot of people struggle with hands. So the one thing I want to talk about this one were the hands. So one thing, it kind of looks off here with the hand and the finger. And one thing to keep in mind as you're drawing hands is the way, you know, anatomy works. And I think it was last week's video talking about hands, and I think hands, even though they are sometimes hard to draw, they are one of those nice things because you have another one that you can kind of use as a kind of example or a reference. So definitely feel free to use what you've got to kind of decide how something should look. So with this hand here, let's talk about this. We've got the finger, and if I pull this off here, got the finger, this side of the hand here is coming over and it overlaps on top of this finger, and then the finger comes down. So if we look at the hand itself, number one, you'll see that the way that if I've got this in the camera, the way this comes up here, comes up and attaches here. It's pretty much a straight shot. So the index finger is going to be along the inside there. And also if you pull down here further, you know, your index finger pretty much sits right with your wrist as it comes down. So it's going to be almost just a straight line here between this section if we take the thumb out of there. So just a straight line there. So kind of keep that in mind to make this a little bit more anatomically correct and look a little bit better. What I would recommend is the finger here. You would want it to actually just come off this front part here. So with this coming back here, it's almost setting kind of in the center of the hand, to whereas, like I showed you, the finger should come off right from that front part there where the thumb is over here. So if we redraw this here, we'll put those like you've got them, but just bringing this over just a little bit and having the finger there, you'll see that looks a lot more natural just because it's coming off that side. So same thing up here. The overall positioning of the hand is really kind of wonky just because this index finger is wrapping clear around the rest of the hand, which is, you know, nearly impossible. And I love, you know, skewing proportions and stuff like that with cartooning, but it just looks a little bit wonky. So with this, I would honestly just have changed the entire position of the hand and had it more of, let's see, instead of having the back of the hand here, let's have the hand facing like the palm out. So if we would do that and bring the fingers down and around like this, that would let that index finger kind of reach over and then you could have, you know, the thumb there. You still have the pencil coming out here, but it would just look a little bit more natural because you could kind of stack that up there, and it doesn't look like that finger's wrapping clear around. So definitely with that, like I said, just kind of pay attention to the anatomy and how the proportions and the hand actually works, and just use yours for a reference. You've got it sitting right there. Feel free. What I'll usually do if I can't get it just right, you know, you could always grab out your cell phone and take a picture of it right there and just use that as a reference, so you don't have to sit there and hold your hand like that. But a fantastic job. Just wanted to throw out that quick little lesson in hand anatomy. So fantastic job. Thanks so much, Greg, for sharing that one this week. And next up, we've got Thomas, and let me pull up Thomas's post. So it sounds like Thomas had a bad couple 2 years, and says his resolution is trying to finally enjoy life the way it's meant to be. So number one, Thomas, best of luck in the new year 2020. You're in a great group of truly supportive people. So if you have any, you know, thing you need help with, if you need somebody to talk to, there's a group of over 2,000 people now that I'm sure would love to be, you know, your ear to talk to, or that shoulder to lean on. So don't forget that, and feel free to reach out to any of us, myself included. We're here for you, Thomas. But I love the design of this, and just like you said, kind of taking back life and enjoying it. And this little chicken guy, he's definitely doing that. So here, talking about hands, just fantastic job here. Sometimes the closed fist, I know people have a hard time doing, but you did a great job with the closed fist there. Really like it. Love the kind of heavy outline once again throughout this. Really makes the design kind of pop. And once again, we're back to a traditional piece. So with this, Thomas used markers, Copic, however you want to pronounce it. And I just love the kind of changes in value you can get from here, and even just the shading that you can get from these markers is just crazy. If you look at just all the shadows here and kind of the changes in the colors, just a really, really great job. And I would talk about, you know, kind of posing and dynamic energy in your designs, and this one definitely has that in spades. So just this overall kind of crazy chicken really tells you what Thomas is going for this year. So best of luck, and like I said, Thomas, we're here for you, man, so reach out to any of us at any time. Next up, we've got Soochin's, and Soochin's New Year's resolution. I don't think there was much written about this one. Let me pull that one up and see. This one says, a scribble of my New Year's resolution. We'll see how it goes. So basically, I think Soochin's going to be very busy this year. That's what I kind of get from this. Just, you know, papers everywhere and books, and got like post-it notes everywhere, probably reminding you of stuff you want to do or work. And I think this is a really, really great one. I love kind of the framing around here, the black line, but this one too, Soochin used this just kind of almost like a wet wash kind of watercolor buildup, but the fact that it's all using that kind of plain brown, I really like. It has that kind of sepia tone to it, and the textures throughout with the brush is just really cool. I think it makes this very interesting, and I kind of like the plainness of just having the black against that color and not doing a whole lot else. But you do have these kind of orange red hues thrown in every once in a while, which I think is a really nice touch. It doesn't really pop out, it just all blends in, and I think that's kind of what makes this one work, is just nothing itself, you know, kind of stands out. It just all works together, and it creates a really nice finished piece. So just a fantastic job on that one this week, Soochin. So thanks so much for submitting that. And next up is Mac, and let's see what Mac had to say with this submission. Thanks for adding me to the group. So another new person to the group. So welcome, Mac. Thanks so much for sharing your designs. I want to give the weekly challenge a shot. So here's one of my New Year's resolutions. So obviously, kicking the pop to the curb, or soda, depending on where you're from. We say pop here. But I love the kind of relationship thing over here. Don't, you know, come on now, don't cry. Look, it's not you, it's me. So, you know, kind of that old breakup adage. And you've got this sad little pop can down here. Once again, you know, going back to last week's challenge, bringing the inanimate object to life. This could be, you know, used for that challenge. I think the overall shape and just the expression and the character design of the pop can is really cool. You can kind of feel bad for him. You know, he's got the tears coming down and the arms crossed here. Definitely tells a good story and kind of drives home exactly what that pop can is feeling and kind of relays the whole idea of the design. So once again, another way of looking at a challenge, you know, New Year's resolution, kind of thinking about it and bringing it to life on the page. And this one is another case like that it's really well done as far as bringing an idea like that to life. One thing here I want to talk about is, let's go over this stuff first though. Line work, really, really cool. I love the shadows. And down here with the arm, as it comes around here, you've got kind of like a little bit of like muscle definition here, and the way that the angles come down here a little bit sharper. Same thing here with the shirt. The shadows here on the arm. I know a lot of people have trouble doing shadow work on clothing. It's kind of hard, and this is a really, really good way to approach that. Just these kind of, you know, lines coming out like this. You don't want to go too crazy with it, and I think that he did a fantastic job knocking that out just like that. So kind of play around with that if you guys are struggling with doing shadows on fabric or clothing, because this one is a fantastic job. So the one thing here I want to talk about, and I've done a couple of these so we can go back and forth, because I want to do something on here and then go back to the original, so that's why I've got this duplicated. So we talked about before with the cartooning series as far as drawing faces and using guidelines and stuff like that. And the one thing that looked a little bit off on this is of course a 3/4 perspective. And let's go ahead and draw the guidelines here just so I can kind of show you exactly what I'm talking about. So here, let's do the center line, and then we're going to do the eyes here, because we've got the character kind of looking down here. So this line here is going to kind of have this curve because it's got the 3/4 and it's looking down. So as you can see, the one thing that looked a little bit off to me, and then it's kind of more apparent too once you draw these lines, is you've got this eye, you know, centered where it should be, but then this eye, since it is on the right hand side closer to the viewer, this one should actually be moved up further, and it should be a little bit bigger. And you can see it's actually sitting lower than this eye, so it's not following the same curve and the shape of the face. See, there's a big gap right there. So let's go ahead and I'm going to erase these, just undo this back, and actually let's do this so we can still see it. I'm going to do this line again. Let's do this line again. And let's drop the opacity of this so we can kind of see where these are at. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to this layer that I made here. I'm going to grab this eye, and we're just going to move it following those guidelines. And then I'll show you what it looks like in both instances here. So we're going to make it a tad bit bigger. And then we're going to move it up to where, like I said, it kind of follows this a little bit more closely as far as the lines go. And I think that's the other problem, is that the pupil here, this one's kind of up higher, this one's lower, so that looks a little off. So if we grab that, I'm not sure how well this is going to work when I grab it, but if we move this a little bit there, let's color this back in. This isn't going to look perfect by any means, but it will kind of help you see what I'm talking about. So there we go. So let's go ahead and turn off the lines now. If we flip back and forth between these, you can kind of see this might be just a little bit off still. If we make it, move it in a little bit more here. There we go. So we jump back and forth, you'll see how that looks a little bit better as far as proportions go and the perspective goes. Like I said, I would probably move this down. Let's see. Just the way that this looks now, I'd probably move the eye down. I think I moved the pupil up a little bit too far, but maybe making it bigger. Not so much moving it down, but just making it bigger, because once again, this is going to be on the side of the face that's closer to the viewer, so everything's going to be a little bit larger over here, and then maybe moving this one over a little bit. So let's jump back and forth now. You'll see that just looks a little bit better. There's just something that, you know, looks a little bit off with this, not sure exactly what it is. And then, you know, just adjusting that really kind of shows you the difference. So definitely, if you start to do, you know, faces and start the overall shape, I'd really recommend following that cartooning 101 class and, you know, kind of build up the form using those lines to get everything in place. But that's it for Max. Thanks so much for submitting that one this week. And finally, last but not least, we've got Mark. And let's read what Mark wrote. Let's see. Where are you at, Mark? Here we go. BJ, my New Year's resolution is to dust off my 10-year-old graphic design degree and finally use it to make some additional income. Art has always been my passion, but I was never brave enough to go all in. My goal this year is to set up an online shop for some prints, build up my portfolio, and hopefully land some commissions. So like I said, a lot of people this year, and especially in the group, were talking about kind of wanting to get into making money with art and, you know, using their passion to drive some sort of sales and maybe a career out of it. So number one, it's awesome that you definitely want to do something with the degree. I know, having that degree sitting there and not doing anything, so brushing that off is gotta feel good, and I wish you all the best of luck in 2020, Mark. And I think that's one thing that we kind of want to talk about more this year with the channel is I really want to get into kind of thinking about your art as a business. I've done a couple videos talking about, making money with your art and so on and so forth. And I love that you went with this for your resolution, and I love that you went with your characters. I love these little guys so much. If you guys have seen, I think the last time we saw these were the Inktober video. Mark was featured in that one. We've got the art sale. We've got the cute little guys down here. You got the Andy Warhol and Campbell's suit can down here, and just really, really cool. So we can tell what Mark is going for this year. As always, I love these guys so much, and the line weight here, like we were talking about before with David's, the thickness here and just kind of the shakiness to where it's not, a perfect straight line going across. This kind of really drives home what I was talking about here, just with building up those line weights and making it more believable and more fun. I'd maybe even go over here and kind of build these up in different line weights here, just to kind of have that kind of messiness. I really call that kind of the Bill Watterson way of doing stuff. The artist behind Calvin and Hobbes, one of my favorite artists of all time, but he was really famous for doing that and building up those lines in different ways. So just a great job, Mark. And like I said, if you guys want to become a better artist, of course, practice every day, but I think this is everybody's year. 2020, we've got a great group of people, so definitely want to urge you guys to join if you haven't already. Mark said he wants to do prints. Personally, I don't do a lot of prints. I do more product stuff, stuff people can wear, the coloring books and stuff like that. So I'm going to talk more about that in the new year. Like I said, want to get a bunch of new artists on the channel too for the Let's Talk Art, so people that are making careers in art. And the goal with this channel and the group is really to kind of empower you guys. Talking with Carlos earlier, his idea, he's got a podcast too, which I'll link to, but letting artists know that they're not alone in this, and that's really the idea behind the community and getting you guys all together as a group. There's just something that can't be said enough of the support that you get from other people. And especially with social media, it can be so toxic. There can be so much negativity on there, and I love the way that we've been able to build everybody up and want to continue to do that through 2020. So if there's any ways that we can help you guys get out there and get your art seen and turn it into something that you can make money from, so I'll share more tips and advice this year about that, kind of walk you through some more of the stuff that I'm doing, and we'll get you out there and get your guys' stuff seen. So that is it for today's video talking about New Year's resolutions. Alright guys, that's it for this week's video. As always, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Special thanks goes out to everyone that submitted designs this week in the challenge. I love the participation and love seeing your guys' work, so thank you again. So I apologize. I know towards the end of the video I started rambling a little bit, but the message that I want to get across to you is you do not need anyone's permission to be an artist. You do not need anyone's permission to put yourself out there and start making money with your art. Doesn't matter if you want to turn it into a career or if you just want to turn it into a side hustle for some extra pocket change or mad money. You can do it. The only thing holding you back is you. So definitely put yourself out there. Get the will, the determination down, and just go for it. That's what we're going to be talking about this year in 2020. And if that's something you guys want to do, that's something I want to help you guys make a reality. So that's 2020's goals, is to help you guys out to become successful with your art and turn it into something more than a hobby possibly. But if you guys want to take part in these challenges, here is how. Like I said, at the end of the video every week, I give you guys a challenge word. I know a lot of people were talking this week in the group and with their designs that they wanted to kind of get commissions or they wanted to get client work. That's their goal for 2020. So for this week's challenge, we're not actually going to have a word prompt. I'm actually going to give you guys kind of a client challenge. So let's say I'm a client and I'm pitching you a commission piece of work. That's this week's challenge. So I'm a lady named Debbie, and I have a donut company called Debbie Does Donuts. I came up with that. I need a logo for my business, something going to be used for advertising. So obviously I want the name of my company, Debbie Does Donuts, and it's a female-run company. So I want it to kind of have feminine quality, color scheme. I kind of want pastels, kind of pinks and purples and maybe some, baby blues, stuff like that. Just want you guys to run with it, see what you can do. And just to let you know, this vagueness is usually how client work goes. So that's what I need. And then also, of course, I want like a donut in there since we sell donuts. So I don't know if it really needs to be like a clip art donut or if it needs to like have a face, but just whatever you think, do whatever you want to do with that. And we sell coffee too. So if you want to put coffee in there, you don't necessarily have to. But let's kind of go with that, and it's going to be, like I said, used in like our signage and our advertising. So it needs to pop, it needs to speak to the customer. They need to know what we're about with that. So if you could do that, that would be great. So that's the customer pitch. That's how they go a lot of the time. So Debbie Does Donuts is the name of the company. It's got to have a donut in there at least. Is it going to be cartoony? Is it going to be like a serious clip art graphic design type of thing? It's up to you. And then the color scheme, you've got that too. So let's see what you guys can do. And then what you need to do is post that over in the Keep Creating group, which I will link in the description below. Or if you don't have Facebook, because that's where the group is, you can post your designs on Twitter or Instagram and tag me in those. I've also got a website, bjadell.com. My contact form is on there. You can send them to my email. That's the other way. So see what you guys can do. Here's your kind of client test. So this is how we're starting out 2020 with something a little bit different. As for me, I can be found online at bjdell.com as well as on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.